Morning.
Morning.
How are you, mate?
You hear us all right?
Yeah, got you.
You see us both, yeah?
Yeah, got you both on set. Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Perfect. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad. You?
Yeah, so, I guess.
Just trying to get through all this nonsense at the moment, isn't it? So.
Oh, no, yeah. Well, are you working or?
I've been furloughed, so it's been quite good, to be honest. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, isn't
it?
Yeah, I've kind of been. I was working from home for about 7 weeks, and then we've gone back 2 days a week from about 2 weeks ago. So we're starting to get somewhere.
Yeah.
But what you said, you back in what?
Sorry.
You back in training now, or not really?
No, not yet. Obviously, League One are still waiting to find out, aren't we? They've seemed to be waiting for everyone else to. I don't know. There's a few the bigger clubs are kicking up a bit of a fuss. I think McAntony's been quite outspoken, and I think they want to finish. So, what's going to happen? I don't know. Still waiting to hear. So,
what's your stance on it? What would you do?
I think it's going to be hard to go back because I don't know where it goes for next season. But I get where their position they're in. But whether they do something regarding playoffs, etc., I don't know. That might happen. I think it's hard to go back. I think it's going to be hard to the cost of everything, because at the moment you start going back training, the club's got to unfurl a load of players and all the staff.
Exactly.
They can't afford it, you know what I mean?
Especially with the testing, I think I read it's going to cost about 140 grand, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's ridiculous. So
yeah, which is all right. The Premier League and Championship, most of them have got the money anyway, haven't they? But our level, it's difficult, I think.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, cheers for taking your time out today anyway, mate.
No problem, mate. Been going all right, isn't it?
Yeah. Enjoying it. Got a few people, actually. It's been quite... I'm surprised the amount of people that have said yes.
These things are good, especially during, obviously, what's going on and that. You get a lot of... It's been good, the social media side of it, isn't it? To reflect on stuff and what's gone on and, guests and how it works. It's been really good, I think.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to look back, especially how it's been for us this season. It's nice to look back at some better times. But yeah, if we go way back to the start, to when you well, first of all, what you were obviously a youth at Tottenham. Was there anyone sort of with you then that we'd have heard of that also went on to have a good career?
Like within the youth team I was in, because we got to the Youth Cup final. We lost on penalties to Man United, but you had Stephen Carr's probably the main name.
Right.
Obviously went on to have a great career. Stephen Clements was in there, but all the players had decent careers and played in the game pretty much, most of them. So, it was good time, good team, to be fair, and it was a good place to learn your trade if you want.
Did you ever think you were going to get a chance in the first team, or was it sort of? Did you think, actually, I might have to step down to try and work it out?
So when I came out of the youth team, and I was actually a centre back, the youth team and that. So coming out there, and I'd done well my first year as a pro, and Jerry Francis called me in and said, "Look, you're doing really well. Keep going. And I want to offer you a new deal, etc." So that was going well, and went on a pre-season tour with the first team. But I remember doing my ankle ligaments, and that kept me out for quite a while. I fell back a little bit, and listen, there's so many players at them clubs that you miss a period of time and someone takes over. So I got to 21 and I got that itch to play, really. I wanted to play first team football, under 23s. And Chris Hughton was my manager there. He was brilliant, like a brilliant guy and a brilliant coach. So really enjoyed that. But you get to the stage where, 21, you want to be playing football every week. And I think it's hard when as a 23, you're training a Saturday morning, but you've got no game to look forward to in the afternoon. That's what you want, you know what I mean? So got to that stage here, I wanted to play, really.
Yeah, definitely.
So how did the Southend move come about then?
I think they watched a couple of reserve games or friendlies or a couple of matches, and they come in on loan initially. I was ready to come on loan, and then it was Alvin Martin at the time. Then picked up the phone and said, "Look, I think the period they were in, I think they were looking desperate for a midfielder." So I was playing in between back centre half, midfield. So the offer of a permanent deal come up. Spoke to Tottenham, and we're really going to get in. It's probably difficult. So I thought it's a good idea, localish for me, because I was in East London, Ilford. So it just suited me really, and wanted to get out and play, and liked what Alvin said and how he was, and so I thought it was a good opportunity.
Was it a bit of a sort of like a shock to reality, so to speak, like going from Tottenham to Southend, or?
Yeah, it was. I remember because my first game, I think we travelled up with Burnley away, and we trained on the Thursday at Boots and Laces, and then we travelled up and trained on the Friday, but we ended up almost at the side of the hotel doing a little bit on the car park. You go, what's going on here? So it was different. We played Burnley away, and the atmosphere was brilliant, and I really enjoyed the game. We got beat, but I remember being, because I obviously had dodgy ankles at the time, and the physio John Gowans. Remember John Gowans?
Yeah.
So he used to do your strappings, ankle strappings and things. So at Tottenham, you just get your ankle strap after a game, you take them off, throw them away in the bin. Johnny's coming around, he start pulling at my ankle, and I go, oh, what are you doing? So we've got to wash these and use these again. I go, no, here we go. But I really enjoyed the occasion, to be fair. Like that, I suppose it gave you a bit of an insight to what you're getting into and the level compared to Tottenham. But listen, really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So did it not take you long then to sort of break into the team? Did you arrive and almost straight in?
Yeah, I went straight in because it was the back end of League One. I've come in January, and it was a bit of a relegation scrap, to be fair. But I come in and done all right. I'd done well for the first 5 months, but unfortunately got relegated. But came in, and there was a few characters in the team, to be fair. So it was a good experience. Jerome Boer was there, Andy Rammell, Keith Dublin, Phil Gridlett. So there was a lot of characters within the team. Mark Stimpson was in the team. I used to room with Mark, and obviously someone I got to know later on as well. But really good bunch of characters. And so listen, I loved it because you're playing every week, Saturday, Tuesday, and games coming thick and fast, and they meant something. So in that aspect, all the other facilities and that, they are what they are. But you can't replicate playing a game in front of a crowd and playing for points on a Saturday. No,
not at all. So were you aware? I can like remember sections of the crowd around sort of late 90s, early 2000s. I'm guessing around that sort of time. You would get a little bit of stick from areas of the fans. Were you aware of this?
Yeah, very. Yeah. How
was that?
Yeah, it's horrible. I think you come from a club, you come from Tottenham and have a certain way of playing and around certain types of players. Everyone wants the ball and stuff like that. And to be fair, I always wanted to get on the ball and try and play, but I struggled, to be fair. The second year struggled because it was League Two. It's a shock to the system when you come from a club like Tottenham. You see it still nowadays when players come from Premier League clubs and have never been used to the way it's played in the lower leagues. So it's hard to adapt. And I think maybe I come on the back of, I suppose, coming from a Premier League club, fans were expecting a bit more. And to be fair, listen, I didn't play well and the club struggled. So I suppose I took a brunt of it, which was hard as a young player. Really hard. To be fair, it got to the stage I used to tell my family not to come to the games. But
really, that bad?
Yeah, it got.
No, well, I never knew it was that bad. No.
Yeah, listen, it was getting standing ovation for coming off weren't great, but
it's a classic, isn't it?
Yeah. So listen, it was what it was. I think the club was struggling, the team was struggling. It was just one of them things, but you had to fight through it really. And I look back at that period and go, right, it weren't great, but I think it certainly made you stronger as a player and handle stuff.
Yeah, you certainly got through it, put it that way.
Thank God.
All works out all right in the end, didn't it?
Yeah.
So when did you first get made captain, anyway?
That was with Rob Newman when he took over. So Rob, when he took over, he changed things around. I think after Phil Whelan left, he had a change around and wanted to make me captain. To be fair, I think I was 25, I think. So obviously I played with Rob. He was there when I come as well. He joined under Alvin. So knew Rob quite well and what he wanted to do and that. So yeah, I think I was 25. Yeah, but Rob Newman but unfortunately for him, didn't really work out either. So disappointing. But yeah, it was from that period onwards, kind of, I stayed as captain when whatever manager came in.
Yeah.
So it was it Steve Wignall after Rob Newman? I can't really remember. I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think Steve. Yeah, it was Steve came in after that, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that was another one. Weren't too successful.
No. I know. Yeah. Listen, I think, like I said, I think the club was going through a period of just trying to find its feet and couldn't work out the right way to go, and they try and managers and it wasn't really working. So difficult time, but Steve was okay. It didn't work out, and the fans didn't really take to him. And I think, to be fair, a few of his signings he made some good signings actually. And it's during this period, maybe he needed more time for everything to click, because it was a big turnaround and big turnover of players. But he signed some very good players. I think he signed Mark Gower during that period. So there's some positives out of it, I guess.
Yeah, but you're there. So when that time comes to an end, you've been there. You've already seen quite a lot. Then when Steve Tilson comes in, how long did it sort of take you to maybe realise that we could be on to something special?
I think we had a good group of players. I have to say, like, all the players that were there at the time were really good. And I think Tilly took over that time and we stayed up. I think the first year he took over with Brushy. So off the back of that, then signing, I think, got to the LDV final against Blackpool, which was, a real big boost for everyone. And I think, to be fair, Leon Constantine scored a lot of goals during that period that year, but he left. I think when the year after that, I think was that one when Freddie come in, and that, I think we had a good team, but Freddie come in and gave it all the spark. The final piece of the jigsaw, really. And he was the one, could score a goal out of nothing, and what he did that year was brilliant.
I mean, so I guess, like you say, when Freddie came in, like say, then it was the back-to-back promotions. I mean, how good was that team really? Like, because it was mainly the same team really, apart from a few additions, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it weren't massive amounts of changes then. That's what I was touching on earlier. Different managers, when they have a high turnover of players, it's hard to get any consistency and team spirit, and everyone working together. It's hard when you get that many people coming in and out of the building to gel and find each other and find a rhythm of how you play. I think, like, you guys obviously on Twitter and what we see in that, and you forget the football was good, like, wasn't it? It's really good.
Yeah.
Some of the football we played was brilliant, and what Freddie added then was the goals on top of it. Which, listen, you can be playing a tight game or anything, but Freddie pulls something out of the bag and you win the game, and all of a sudden, the last 20 minutes are comfortable, and the football starts, really opening up. So that was, you look back at a lot of good players as well, really good players. From Flabs in goal was brilliant for them a few years for us, and he'd been there a little while as well, and Juppy and Spencer Pryor, Ads. I mean, like you said, you go right through the team, and good players, but also good characters.
It's a great point, actually. So a lot of those players were here for quite a long time. So you're saying where we've got to now, it's just turnover.
Yeah, exactly, and it makes it hard. And I think where Tilly was good in that he let the lads get on with it, and didn't put an arm around the shoulder, and kept everyone happy, and training was fun and enjoyable. I think we started this season out poorly, actually, but once we got a win and got going, there was enough characters in the team to sort things out, and there was the change room wouldn't stand for any rubbish. You know what I mean? Anyone not pulling their weight, you dig them out and pull them back in line if you want, but it really had to happen. It was a competitive edge. I mean, training used to be so competitive. Like, every day everyone was on it and worked so hard that it came from within, a lot of it.
So was it quite as black and white as it seemed? Because it was very much a 4-4-2, but
yeah.
Well, these days, if you play a 4-4-2, you get almost typecast into, like, you have to play unattractive football. It's got to be long ball, and as like we've just said, we didn't do that. We played some really good stuff. So you can obviously play in that formation. Why do you think that's become almost dated now?
I don't know. I mean, I looked at it. Bournemouth a bit, played it for quite a while, playing an attractive type of footballs, and done really well. So it can be done. It's just how your philosophy and how you want to play, and what your principles are. But it has become dated. I think tactically, players have become better. There's more learning for players. I think they understand the game more. There's not as much of the hustle and bustle of the game. The fouls are restricted. So it has changed that much. But the principles shouldn't change. If you want to play and you want to get it down and play, you should be able to do that anyway. That's whatever formation. And I think there weren't too many other teams that veered away from the 4-4-2 in that period, I guess. There was a lot more teams that played it. So a lot of the time it's a match-up. Whereas nowadays, a lot of different formations and teams trying to... players understand the game better and can find spaces, and the learning for players is a lot better with football analysis and and the feedback they get, so you can watch it back. And there wasn't too much of that back then.
No, I guess not. So yeah, we have the back-to-back promotions. We get to the Championship, and obviously we all know we end up getting relegated. But from an individual standpoint, you seemed to really flourish in the higher level. Did you find it not easier, but did you find you possibly had more time on the ball, things like that?
Yeah.
Having come from that level at Tottenham.
Yeah, I found it almost easier if you want. And like you said, you get a bit more time on the ball. I think players or teams they'll watch for things to happen. So deeper you can get the ball on the ball a bit more. I think the biggest difference is that people were quicker. You make a mistake, they'll punish you. In terms, personally, that year I had a really good year. I scored some goals, and I just found it. You knew almost what teams were going to do. League One and League Two is a little bit more off the cuff, in that you don't know what's happening, but you can see patterns happening in the Championship, and you can see the game happening like 2 or 3 passes ahead, and 2 or 3 moves ahead. So if you're a player who knows that type of level and you can read the game, I found it easier. And it was personally, it was a really good year for me. Obviously disappointing to end up in relegation. That we possibly, look at Colchester, what they managed to do. And I think that's a real disappointment, because we got ourselves to a stage where we could nearly survive, obviously, after being in a lot of trouble. But just fell away the last few games, which was a big disappointment, I think. Yeah,
that was it. We kind of, we hit a decent run of form, I think, at the turn of the year that season. But obviously it did end up being too late. But there was still there was the game against QPR where you bagged a couple of worldies on the telly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's funnily enough. Listen, I suppose if you want a bit of an old school player and always wore black boots, etc. But my boots actually split at half time, so I had these training pair and they were white. Nowadays that'd be the norm, but. And a lot of the lads did, but I had to change my boots at half time, ended up scoring 2 goals, and I thought, well, this might be the way forward now.
Keeping these.
But yeah, no, good night that. And we hit, like you said, we hit a bit of form and looked like we might be able to do something, but unfortunately fell just short.
Yeah, I think it was the Burnley home game that season. I think we nicked it 1-0 right in the last minute. That was the one I thought, we're actually going to stay up here.
Yeah,
that was still a great season. I still have really fond memories of that season, even though we got relegated.
I do. Yeah, definitely. I personally as well. Yeah, definitely. And like you said, some of the stadiums you went to, and some of the teams you played against, and obviously, like Root Hall, to be fair, was full every week. So yeah, brilliant time, brilliant occasions. You just wonder what might have been if you could have stayed up, but obviously. Listen, whether the club was ready for it or not, I'm not sure. But we had a brilliant year, and personally really enjoyed it.
And obviously, of course, that same season we had the Man United game. Just go and talk us through that, because that's you think about that now. You put it into context. We knocked Man United out of the cup. It still doesn't really seem believable.
No, yeah, it's especially with the run of form we were on. We couldn't win a game, could we? 18 games or 17, 18 games about winning the game, and then you go and do that. You got it, where it come from, scary, really. But obviously, I think you do the team sheets and you look at their team sheet and it comes in and all the names are on there, and here we go. But it was one of them that it was happening. Flavs obviously had an unbelievable night, which I suppose is going to cause an upset. It needs to happen. And he was brilliant that night. Everything that hit, and he pulled off saves from Ronaldo, and I think they hit the post and bits and pieces like that. But Freddie scoring a brilliant goal, and once you have got something to hang on to, you've always got a chance. But yeah, just the way it panned out, and we're hanging on. Brilliant night, and I suppose we've still got 100% record, haven't we? I think against them.
Yeah.
Is that still the start, isn't it?
I think we're the only team to have a 100% record against Ferguson's Man United.
Really?
I think now, yeah. Annoyingly, MK Dons have also got a 100% record against them, but it was post Ferguson. So we got the good era. We got the Fergie era.
It's a decent stat. That's a good one. All these quizzes going on. It's not a bad one.
Yeah. But yeah, as you say, you need a slice of luck. I think on about 10 seconds after. So we've scored. The game's restarted. Yeah. They hit the post about 10 seconds later. You look back at that now and you think, yeah, that's the slice of luck that if that goes in, we quite easily go and lose that 4 or 5-1. Yeah,
exactly. And I think. Yeah, listen, you've got to ride your luck at times, and to be fair, I don't think we had too much of it in that period. So
no.
It was nice for that to happen. And you look back, and what an occasion for the club. And I don't think you realise it at the time. When you're playing, and that it's not another game, but it's a game you want. When you're in the game, you just want to win. Whoever it is, and then it's only when you step back and you look back, obviously, you can tell your kids and stuff like that, and when they still talk about Ronaldo and. Like my kids do, and Messi, etc.
I played against him.
Yeah. Whether they believe you or not, I don't know. So I keep getting out that the news is on Twitter and the games are coming up. So
keep getting the DVD out.
Was the quality of that team sort of obvious when you was playing in it? Was it almost like a bit of a these are really good, like was it actually no? You know what, we're matching these.
No, I think it was. I think what the biggest difference, was the sharpness of how they were. Like Ronaldo, how sharp he was on the ball, and Rooney, and just how quick they moved the ball. I think that's when you look at the top players, they do things. Everything is a bit quicker, and with a little bit more quality. So that for me is the biggest difference. In terms of the game itself, I think we can all play it, and we've all got good qualities. And you find lower leagues that players do go up to that level and find a level, but the biggest difference is the tempo and the speed at which they do things for me.
Yeah, it's because like you say, when you watch the highlights of it, there is times when we're sort of under the cosh a bit, and there is moments when I think it's when Ronaldo gets a shot away and you realise how quick he is, but then obviously it was saved and stuff. But you think, Christ, any other given day almost it could easily just swing the other way, but that night it was just our night. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's what you realise. I think if you watch it, you start getting deeper and deeper, and you're hanging on a bit, and the balls are coming in the box, and you're going, oh no, which one of these is going to fall? Or thankfully we held out.
There's still times that I'll watch it now, and I think they might score it. Like I've watched it about 100 times. I know the outcome, but you still think, they might nick one. They're going to equalise in a minute.
Yeah, I've tried it with my kids. I say, come on, do you want to watch this game? Like, no, you're right.
So yeah, we I think you had, one more full year after we get relegated. Did we get in the playoffs? I can't remember. Did we get in the playoffs that following season?
Yeah, the following season, yeah.
And fell short. And then you from what I remember, you can obviously correct me if I'm wrong, but your departure seems to happen quite quickly. What was it quite quick? I can't really remember.
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's one bit disappoints me how that all happened, I guess, looking back. I mean, I know Tilly left me out of the team during the period of that season. I got back in and we were doing okay, but I think come January they come to me and just said, oh, look, we've accepted an offer. I was like, all right. So it's one now I said, well, no, that don't suit me at the minute. You know what I mean? I don't think that's the right one. So I left it. There's a couple of other... So the offer was from a team in our league, but there was a couple of offers before that had come in from championship clubs that inquired. Right. And I said, well, if I'm not going to play, then can you help me? You know what I mean? If that's the case, I'd rather go to a higher. But the club, it didn't happen for some reason or another, you know? I mean, but they did accept one from a League One team.
Yeah, funny
which,
that.
Yeah. So that didn't work out. But in the end, I just I decided to go on loan to Gillingham. I think that was in February or March, I think it was, or March, I believe. So, yeah, it ended up happening quite quick and, yeah, a difficult time, you know what I mean? It was hard in that you get to, that was me, like, because what I wanted to do, I wanted to get to my 10 years. Because that was the 10 years was that January. So, for me personally, it was like one of them, milestones. You want to, listen, I suppose a bit of nostalgia, but, you know, to get to for being in the club that long and that, you wanted to make the 10 years. So, yeah, it happened quick, as it does in football a lot of the time, really. You know, players move and it happens really quick. Yeah.
It was, even I can remember as a supporter being disappointed by that, because it was, it's going to sound weird, but it was almost like you were treated just as any other departure. And it's like, you've been here, as you say, you've almost been here 10 years. You've been club captain for probably 6 or 7 of those years. You won player of the season. You captained the team against Man United, the promotions. And it was just almost like, he's gone now. I remember that, even as a fan, being really sort of disappointed by the way you were treated, almost shafted, really.
Yeah, listen, like I said, I was probably a bit disappointed in that as well and how it happened. But I think it happens in football all the time. And like you said, I think the way the game is, and it's such a big business now, and you see at the top level, listen, you can go right through with top players where stuff like that happens. This is business, and, you know, things happen and you move on, and that's part and parcel of it. We agree with it at times, sometimes not, but you've got to get over it and you move on, I suppose.
Very, very cutthroat, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
So, you went on loan to Gills, but then your permanent move was Oldham, wasn't it, for a year, and then you went back to Gillingham. Was Gillingham move sort of not there permanently at the time?
Yeah, well, they were in. Yeah, no, they did want me to go, but I mean, at the time they were in League Two, and I didn't want to be in 31, 32. I just didn't want to drop to that level. And even though that was fair, Mark Stimson was manager, and he actually had a very good team, and they got promoted that year. But John Sheridan was manager of Oldham, and I knew they had a good team at the time, actually. So there was a couple of other things. I spoke to a few clubs, but for some reason or other, nothing really came off. So went up to Oldham. I liked John. He was really good, to be fair, and had a good team. So it was just something I fancied a change, I suppose. Never been away from home, never lived anywhere different. And it was a good opportunity. Lived up in Manchester and enjoyed my year up there, actually. Really good year. So met some good people, and it was a decent club. But, you know, really, really enjoyed it, and had the year there, obviously, before come back to Gillingham, where Mark Stimson stayed in touch with him, and they came up to League One that year. So I thought it was a good opportunity to obviously come back down. Yeah, obviously, you want to play as high as you can, as long as you can.
No, of course, yeah.
As a player, and that was the main reason for that, to be honest.
So, just before we move on to your coaching career, you almost sort of laughed yourself a little while ago when you mentioned that you got a couple of goals in the championship season. Do you ever wish that you possibly shot a little bit more? Because I've never seen you score a tap-in. Every time you scored, it was an absolute banger.
Because I could never get up there. I never get high up the pitch. No, I know. Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I remember. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, just looking back, you go like that season. A lot of them seem to flying in from everywhere. To be fair, but yeah, it's one of them things. You look as a midfielder, your worth goes up the more you score, and I maybe should have. I suppose playing midfield 2 and a 4-4-2. I was more the deep holder really a lot of the time to allow the others to go and play. So didn't really go and get in the box too much. If we had enough attacking players, we have 2 wingers and 2 forwards. You kind of got to sit in and protect the back 4. But yeah, you look back and probably I would like to have scored a few more. And obviously, what I did that year, and probably should take more confidence from that earlier, I guess.
At least you should get a good compilation, though. If we'll tell you what, we'll put them all together, and it'll be a proper highlight reel. Yeah.
There's a few old ones in there that you do well to dig out, I think.
There's a couple. There's some really old season reviews on YouTube, actually, so might be able to dig a couple out. Yeah, from like 97, I think there is.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But so when you were playing, or maybe like coming towards the end of your playing career, were you kind of putting plans in place then to go into coaching? Was it always something that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I think it's some players do and some players don't. I've always wanted to be involved in coaching and managing and, you know, that side of the game. And I think you do your coaching badges when you're a player anyway, a couple of the basic ones just to get you going. Mm-hmm. I think it's something that, listen, it's what we know as well. So when you talk to people about what they're going to do afterwards and things like that, well, you go, well, start, you know, the building blocks of what you are going to do when you play, and just try and talk to players now and do similar stuff. And, you know, the further along you can get, the better. But yeah, I always wanted to look to that side of it. Probably when I was at Gillingham the second time, and done a lot more then with, my assistant manager was Mark Robson, who was local to me and a very, very good coach. And he used to take his boys team up in Brentwood. So I used to go with him quite a lot and talk to him about coaching stuff. Mark he's with the English FA, I think he's with the England 19s or something like that now. So really good coach, and someone that, you know, I found could take a lot from, along with Mark Stimson, who's a really good manager. So around that time, really started getting into it and started taking badges and doing a lot of work behind the scenes.
Was it Chelmsford that you sort of got your first role, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, I was going in to the academy at Southend a little bit. Obviously, still spoke to Ricky Duncan quite a lot, and went in helping out the 16s and bits and pieces there. So that was really good. And then the opportunity to come to Chelmsford as, you know, as first team coach, assistant manager, so to speak, which was brilliant. I mean, so much different to professional football in terms of organisation and facilities and what you have. But for getting your hands dirty and dealing with players every day and coaching all the time, it was brilliant for me to get stuck straight in. And obviously on a Saturday, then you're playing for 3 points, which, listen, the level's quite good. So there's a lot of quite good players who've come from good backgrounds at that level. And I think they just fall out the game. But, you know, in terms of experience and dealing with players and putting on sessions, it was brilliant for me. You know, really, really enjoyed it.
You ended up taking a few of the Southend boys there, didn't you, as well? I think. Did you take, was it Jack Bridge and Mason Williams? Was he another one?
Yeah, that's right. So I think it was I was there for just over two or 3 years, and I ended up taking over for the back end of a season from January onwards, and the opportunity to take Jack and Jason in came up. So took them in, and I thought it was brilliant for them as well. It's a great experience as long as it's the right time for kids to go out on loan and the right club, the right environment, that they're going to be treated well. I think it's a great experience to go and play against men, and it opened their eyes as well, I think. But yeah, so they came in, done really well actually, and we managed to stay up, which, you know, I was a young manager and caretaker at the time, so enjoyed that, and, you know, had some good results as well.
Yeah. How good do you think Jack Bridge is? Because he, if I'm right in thinking, he was quite well, like, highly rated within the youth team, but for whatever reason at the time, Phil Brandis didn't really fancy him, and, you know, he's still in the Football League now. I think he's at Carlisle. So, I mean, do you think he can sort of go on further, or?
Yeah, listen, I love Jack as a player. Brilliant. And especially when I took him to Chelmsford, he was different class for me. And then even when I was doing the 23s, and, you know, his ability on the ball was second to none, and what he could do with the ball, and, you know, he'd go and take it in areas that other players couldn't. You play five-a-sides or anything like that, and listen, he'd just be going past 3 players for fun. And I think what Jack needed was to go out and play. You know, he needed an opportunity at the club, I think, and to being around the first team all the time, because Jack was getting to that age when I spoke about I've got to 21 and needed to leave Tottenham. I think Jack needed that because he was in the 23s, went to the first team, back to the 23s, and it got to him a bit much, I think. So it's hard then to motivate yourself. You know, like I said, on a Saturday morning, you train the 23s, the first team are playing, without getting a real consistent run of games. So I think that's what Jack needed, and it's probably, hopefully now, it's for the best that he's gone out and played. I think he has got a great chance if he can keep playing matches and, you know, and keep developing, and he'll get stronger and fitter, I think. Got a great chance, and a great kid as well.
Yeah. It's strange because it's someone that that you ended up working with, but I know Graham Coughlin always thought very highly of him as well. He was very highly rated. Yeah,
and listen, when even, you know, went to Bristol at the start of this year, we spoke about Jack. But it felt it was important. He played games, and, you know, it wasn't quite right for us at the time. But further down the line, you know, someone we both liked, and, you know, we're both at the club together at Southend, and we both, you know, really liked him and tried to push him at times.
Yeah, I mean, how good is the youth setup at Southend, or especially I guess Ricky Duncan being quite important to that? I mean, obviously this year especially, we'll get onto it later, but we played a lot of the youth teamers this year. So how good is the academy, or is it just a case of a lucky bunch?
No, I think listen, I think it's consistently has produced players. I think they do sell a lot of players further down, further down the chain, which, if you like, some of the best players probably leave earlier. So what I would say is that a lot of good work goes on, behind the scenes with a lot of coaches. From going from the right through the 8s, 9s, 10s, all the way through the club, and then they come into the building at 16. And at the time, there was myself, Dave Hussey, Danny Heath's in around doing it now. So, Ian Hart's the head of coaching, sets up a lot of the programs for the players, and then obviously Ricky heads it all up. So, yeah, really good. It's different to a lot of clubs in that what we spoke about when I was there was trying to make players resilient and hard-working, and so that you see a lot of academy now, and the moment they talk about not having any leadership and not being able to that toughness to play league football a lot, if you want, I suppose. And it's something we always spoke about and wanted to put into the players. I think you get cycles where players come through some years, and you go a period where you don't really get many through. So obviously the circumstances probably dictate a lot of players got chances when they probably wouldn't have done, but I have to say some of them are taking it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially obviously, we will move on to it. But the last game when we played obviously Bristol Rovers, and it was your team playing. But the one thing that stood out for a lot of the players is they want it. They haven't shied away from it. They're up for a fight, and it's really refreshing to see.
Yeah. I think it's always great for a club to have their own homegrown players come through, because it gives the fans an affinity with the team as well, and I think that's important. I think the best clubs do that and have a continuous conveyor belt of players. If you have 2 or 3 players in a thing that fans can associate with being at the club, and they do care more for the club. They come through it, and sometimes you like to see them given a chance, before some signings if you want. But listen, ultimately, if they're not good enough, they're not good enough. But at least they've had that opportunity. So I think it's, as long as there's a pathway there for them, then that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So this season you seem to get an opportunity to move into like a first team coaching role with Bristol Rovers. But before that, was there, the reason you wanted to move, was it because there was sort of no hint of a promotion at Southend going up to first team coach here?
Yeah.
Was that never on the cards?
I think it got to that stage. I mean, obviously, I think when Phil Brown left, me and Ricky took charge for a period. Obviously, the game got called off, but you get a taste of it, and you work with the players, and worked with the first team and really enjoyed it. But I've done 4 years with the 23s, and there was a lot of I took it on my own, all the training every day, etc., etc. So we used to work 6 days a week. I think we were the only ones at the club, and that's the resilience we were trying to build up in them. So they worked 6 days a week. They worked their socks off, but after 4 years, you personally want to develop as well and work with different level. And I would have liked the opportunity to move into the first team, but it didn't look like that was going to happen. So I had conversations. Obviously, managers want to bring their own people in, have their own people around them. So I get that as well. But I thought it was a little bit disappointed that didn't happen, but it wasn't to be.
It's like you were saying earlier about being a player, and that consistency of being not the same, similar teams and players. That progression there for you is, in my opinion, it's an obvious step. So I don't know why the club wouldn't have promoted that. It doesn't make sense to me.
No, listen.
Yeah, I know you probably don't want to say too much, but I mean, it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, as a player, you want to progress. So as a staff or a manager, you want to progress. So to almost let one of its assets just go like that, I thought it was a disgrace, to be honest. But
yeah, listen, it was what it was. You know what I mean? So listen, I still really good relationships with people there. It just wasn't to be, and like you say, I think people want their own people around them. I suppose you're in that job, and that's how you want to do it. And I understand that as well. So that's football at times, and obviously I had to make the decision then to, you know, got an opportunity to go into a first team somewhere, then there's something I was going to take.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that was possibly something that maybe the club just expected you to sit around and wait because of your previous connections to the club as a player. But then, you know, the opportunity at Bristol Rovers comes up, you grab it with both hands, and then Southend a bit like, didn't think he'd actually do that. We kind of thought we could keep hold of him and just like keep him shackled here. So but by doing what you did, you certainly showed you're taking this very seriously, but you want to progress into first team coaching. Do you want to be a manager? Is that something that you see in your future?
Yeah, I think so. I've made no secret. I think a lot of coaches, you know, where you develop, and ultimately you'd like an opportunity yourself to be a manager. Going to Bristol Rovers, I thought was a great option for me. And to be fair, I have to say, I spoke to Ron and had really good conversations with the chairman, and he was very good and open and honest, and you know, still have a decent relationship now. So it happened okay that way, you know, when I did eventually go. But yeah, I'd like the opportunity, but you know, I have to say at the minute I'm really enjoying it at Bristol Rovers. Really good club and a lot of good people, and obviously, you know, new managers come in, and I've worked really closely with him, and still learning loads, and you know, being involved on a weekend and a daily basis with senior players is brilliant.
Was there a worry when Graham left that you might go as well? Because he, as you said, with the situation at Southend, managers bring in their own teams. Yeah,
of course, you know, but to be fair, I've got a really good relationship with the chief exec and the owner have been brilliant, and they said they wanted the staff to stay in place. And the manager, you know, because he came in just before Christmas, he came in, had a look at everything, and you know, was happy to go with what he had at the time, and you know, we've worked really well together. So, you know, he really enjoyed it, and I have to say, like, it's a great area, great place to live. You know, I'm there part time. I'm there during the week. So, you know, as a club and what it can achieve, you know, we're trying to put a lot of the infrastructures going into place, and a lot of the plans going into place, and you know, the gaffer's made a lot of decisions and where he wants to go with it, and he's trying to build it so, you know, that it lasts a long time, not just, you know, for the short term. Yeah,
you were flying at the start of this season, weren't you? It all kind of unravelled, sadly, but
yeah, I think we obviously I think got to fourth in the league, and then obviously Graham decided to move on, but you know, the gaffer wants to change things and do things, and the club want to go in a certain direction, and it's going to take time, you know, and there's going to be ups and downs, but you know, fingers crossed we can get it going.
Well, what's he like as a manager, Coughlin? Because he was well liked as a coach and even as a player at Southend, and I think he was similar to yourself. And although it kind of felt like it was unravelling with Phil Brad, people were a bit gutted when he left as well. So what's he like?
Yeah, and I think he might feel the same about that period as well. So, listen, I think as he was as a player, and you know, see him as a coach, and had a lot of standards he wanted kept in the change room. He knew how to run a changing room, and had the players all on side and working for him. He was a winner, wanted to win games, you know, and I think that stood out massively. And the players all picked up on that, and there was a winning mentality throughout the club. So, you know, he got that going with the players, and you know, done really well with getting the club to where it was.
Yeah. What was your reaction when he announced he was off? You're a bit like, you bastard, what are you doing to me?
Yeah, what's going on? It's all right, you wanted to go home, you've left me here. No, listen, it was a decision I think he spoke about at the time. He's been away from home a long time. I think the opportunity to come back closer to home was something he felt he couldn't turn down. So even though it's the league below, I thought he felt it was an opportunity for him, I guess. So, you know, good luck to him if that was the way he was going to go. So, yeah, but listen, obviously I'm still in the club and absolutely love it there. So really enjoying it, and, you know, got some more experience and probably more input in a lot of stuff as well. So working closely with the manager who's very good to work for as well. So really enjoying it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so we'll come to the, well, still to this day, it remains the last game that either team managed to play for first team, that is. So, yeah, we played Bristol Rovers in March sometime. I think it was March. Did that feel weird for you, but like weirdly proud at the same time, because Southend had such a development side that were your players just last year. How did that feel for you?
Yeah, I think at the time during the game, it's one of them. You just want to win the game. I think we weren't in a great period, so it was an important game for us, obviously, but it didn't work out that way. But yeah, when you look at some of the players that come on, and there's ones there that probably wouldn't have got a chance without everything that was going on in the club. Erin Canali and Tom Clifford, who's done brilliant. Some they're players that I'd have worked with every day for a couple of years. So I knew what qualities they had, but it's always one of them that it's a difficult level, the under-23s, because no one really wants to be in that group. So you want to come out of the youth team and go into the first team, or you've got first team players going down to 23. So it's a difficult one to manage. But what we always spoke about is having the right attitude and how they worked every day. And to be fair, I think them two are a perfect example of it. And you always say, hang in, keep going, don't let your standards drop, because your chance will come eventually. And I think that's something any young player needs to realise, that the disappointments are there and you're not getting opportunities and the frustrations, but you've got to stick out and keep your standards. Yeah, I was really pleased for them, because they're good kids, and a lot of them deserve their opportunity.
Yeah, you mentioned Clifford, and he's probably been the standout player, I say, out of the lot of them. He's sort of just stepped in the team like a first team player. Really, really impressive. Yeah,
like Tom always had the quality, to be fair. On the ball, he's been brilliant, and one of them players that always had that side of it that was, I thought, yeah, he'll cope with it, no problem. There's other areas that you just don't know that will he be able to cope. But, I'm really pleased for him, because, how he applied himself every day and was around the club and everything like that. He was brilliant and different class. So he all really deserved it. And I was pleased for him, actually.
Yeah. It's a horrible situation that obviously they had to come into. And from a supporter's point of view, you kind of think if we'd possibly done it a little bit earlier, we may have given ourselves a bit more of a chance. But listen, we may end up somehow staying up if they decide to avoid the league still. But I think that's a frustrating thing, because I can remember for quite a number of years now, we see a lot of these youngsters doing really well, because we've all got access to things on Twitter now that sort of we didn't have 10, 12 years ago. So we hear a lot of names, and we see a lot of these players doing well, and then they never make an appearance for the first team. They may get a couple off the bench in the cup or something like that. But apart from goalkeepers, we've not really had a player that's come into the team and been like a sort of a mainstay in the team. And I think that's quite frustrating, because surely that's obviously what you want for an academy. And so we've been great with goalkeepers. So I think this would be really nice if certainly a couple of these young lads could come in. I guess Elvis would be one that's, as an outfield player, that's come in and done really well.
Yeah, definitely. Having that connection, like you say, of having if you can get 2 or 3 to go in and actually stay there. Listen, I think maybe you look at Drew Yearwood would have been one who would still be there and playing. Obviously, he moved on, but I suppose that's like a lot of clubs at that level. You get a young player coming through and into your first team, clubs will start to look, and if the price is right, then you sell on. So, but if you can get a group of them, whatever the circumstance, that they get their opportunity, as long as they take it, then that's the main thing. And if they can stay, it's up to them now to try and stay in the team. So, however it comes about, they've got to take it, I guess.
You touched on it with it being a bit of a funny age group, saying like you want to be in the first team. And so from yourself, going back to when you were at Tottenham, you were sort of like ready for a chance in a first team somewhere. So I know you've been a 23s coach, but do you like the under-23 system, or do you think there's still, you've said it, like there's nothing beats Saturday 3 p.m. and 3 points to play for?
No, yeah, exactly. But I think you have to bridge the gap between the youth team and first team. So there is a place for it. I like the old reserve league, if you want. I'd like to see some of that come back in if possible, where you have the best senior players playing with a mixture of the 23s and youth team. So that, for me, where a lot of your great learning comes, because the old reserve league we used to play in at Tottenham, you'd have first team players that would come back from injury or not getting many games, and you'd be playing with them, and that was on a weekly basis. So they'd soon pull you right if you weren't doing it, rather than sometimes 23s can be a lot of stuff, not as competitive if you want.
Yeah.
But I thought, listen, if I could, I'd go back to a slightly older reserve league where we have the best players playing every week. So, as a 23, you might not be guaranteed to get in the team. So you're going to have to work to get in the team.
Yeah.
And then you listen, if there's an 18 who's good enough, or a 16, get them in. Go and play them with the senior players, see how good they are. Because I think that for me, that's the only way of finding out at times. Listen, and you will get late developers, but that's where the 23s has been brilliant. Sometimes without the 23s, Tom Clifford's like we spoke about, maybe Harry Phillips, etc., might not got the opportunity if we didn't have that. So there is a place for it. How you incorporate maybe a reserve type fixture list, if you want, in that, I think would work well.
Mm. Yeah. No, I agree. I'd quite like to see it, because I can remember going to the odd reserve game, and it was still pretty fun. It felt competitive. Yeah,
definitely, and I like the way you said it, you played in the stadium as well. The players get that as much as if you could. It's a bigger game for them then as well, I think. So, yeah, I liked it. I remember going to watch reserve games as well, and you still felt there's a competitive edge as well. So that for me, I'd like to see somehow that coming back a little bit, or whatever way forward they might be able to do that.
Mm.
Is there any other player that you can think off the top of your head that hasn't really come through at Southend, but has got what you think is a big future? Or
listen, obviously I haven't been there all year, so it's hard to tell. A lot can change in a year. So, the coaches there, I'm sure will know one or two that have come through. But listen, I think, to be fair, at Southend it always does well youth team wise, and got players in around it, and they'll always, hopefully what's going on, they'll get opportunities. So I'm sure there's one or two still in the background, and I'm sure, I think he's gone as young as young Coco this year came in as well. So listen, I'm sure there's plenty in around the background. Some will come in and surprise you as well. So I think one for me, maybe Lewis Gard, who's had a really bad injury after he broke in. So it'd be lovely to see him return back into the fold and get an opportunity again, because he's worked ever so hard to get back to fitness.
Yeah, he looked. I was really impressive with him, to be fair, when I saw him. So, is there a bit of a curveball question here, but it might be one you're not 100% comfortable with. But is there any moment or any sort of, I guess, path the club went down where you kind of thought this could change it, and it started the spiral of it? It seems to have just gone downhill the last 3 years. Is there any sort of moment or
sliding doors moment?
Any sort of, I'm not sure on that, and it sort of turned it down, or
listen, it's difficult because obviously I'm a Bristol Rovers now, comment on what's gone on in the club, and I think I think everyone's disappointed. Obviously, the club's situations the club's in now, but I see there's one thing. I don't know if there's one thing you can put your finger on and say, yeah, that was it, because the club where when I was there and Phil Brown was manager, very close to getting the playoffs, for League One. So that happens, and you managed to go up. Obviously, Millwall went up, and they're still in the Championship. So you don't know. Like you said, sliding doors moment, that things happen, and a little bit of luck here and there, things change. But listen, I think as long as the club learns from it, corrects it and moves forward again, I think that's the main thing.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely.
Batted that off. All right then.
Yeah. Go from be a politician with
that one. Just moving back onto the 23s, the 23s that have become the first team. I think you could, even though they're young lads, you can certainly tell that they've played together for a long time, because there's just little just passing movements, like the movement that they're a team. They're a team, and that is what had been missing. So I think it goes back to that I was saying, if you're good enough, you're old enough, sort of thing. So that, but there's definitely there seems to be much more of a team, like sort of tight knit group there than what there had been. And it's actually very frustrating that we ended up with this lockdown, because let's say the last game we played, we won. So it was maybe starting to click a little bit, and you can just only hope that this break hasn't derailed it.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think for quite a few of them players have been together a little while as well, and they've come right through the club, so they obviously know each other and know each other's games. I think it helps that it was almost like a a no-lose situation, a position that the team was in. You know, there's nothing with young players. There's nothing to fear really when they go out and play. They just want to play, and I think that showed. You know, especially us, and when we came to Roots Hall, I think they showed that. To be fair to them, we came. It looked like our players were apprehensive of being there, and you know, playing against a younger team. And obviously, the pressure's on because you should win. Whereas, to be fair to the South End, they played with a lot more freedom than we did. I think that showed, like you said, and looked like, even though they're new to the team, they've obviously know each other and look like a team anyway. So I think that helps, that when you get a few of them that all come through together, that's what happens, you know.
Yeah, that's what I've took from it anyway. They look a close group.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point actually. I never thought of it like in the sense of thinking of the other team, like when they see the team sheet and they see squad numbers of 42 and 37 and that, what goes through their head. But I guess you're right. It's a case of the pressure's on them rather than the other way around.
Yeah, and we weren't in the best of forms coming there either. So it was one of them that, you know, I suppose everyone, because the form South End were in, everyone expects you to win. And it's never that easy. You can just turn up anywhere and win, because even the games before, I'd watched obviously clips and watched games just you know, for preparing for the game. You see a lot of the good football that was being played at times. So we knew that it wasn't going to be easy, but you know, the pressure can be on other teams. I think when it gets to that stage, that, you know, so far adrift, if you want, and you know, in bad run of form, that, you know, everyone watches the game and think, well, yeah, they should win that, they'll win that. But it's not. It never works that way in football.
No, you look at it and think, oh yeah, South End are a free hit, but yeah, you can't just turn up. You've still got to obviously still work for it.
Yeah. And it was one of them that we didn't turn up on a day, and you know, to be fair, South End were the better team and deserved to beat us.
Yeah. So have you got any sort of like goals for the next like 5 years yourself personally? I mean, like you say, you sort of touched on being a manager. Is that your aim in the next, say, 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think so. I think, you know, everyone coaching in that is ambitious. You know, first and foremost, enjoying getting the experience at Bristol Rovers and working there with the manager. So, you know, it's a great platform to learn. He's great to learn off as well, actually. So, yeah, listen, I think I wouldn't sit here and say, no, I don't want to do it, but definitely want to be a manager one day. I think, you know, always have ambitions and, you know, want to push yourself. And I think everyone wants a chance in the hot seat at some stage, I guess. So, yeah, that's part and parcel of it. Even when that happens, who knows? Really enjoying my time at Bristol and working with good people at the minute. So, you know, that for me is the first and foremost. And, you know, what will be further down the line, we'll see.
Yeah. But saying that, didn't you take over as caretaker for like a couple of games at Bristol?
Yeah, we in between, after Graham left before the new manager came in, I took charge of. We played Peterborough, which, you know, ended up with 0-0, which was a great experience. Obviously, taking a game in League One and right at the top end of it as well. So, really enjoyed that, and obviously the buzz that did. And the manager had a period where he was away from the club as well, so it took a couple of games for that. Obviously, I was in contact with him every day as well. So. You know, worked closely with him going into them games as well. So, yeah, you know, great experience to be on the touchline for them games, and something that whets your appetite a bit. But I think it's important to know yourself as a person and where you are at coaching-wise and when you're ready to do it. So, listen, the moment you think you've cracked it, I think you're in trouble. So, for me, it's just keep learning. You know, if the opportunity comes, then be ready for it.
Sweet.
Yeah, cool. So just as we start to wind it down, but so going back to your playing career at Southend, we had the two LDV finals. I know we lost, but still like great days out in Cardiff. We had the playoff final. We had a league title. We had the win against Man United. You're the captain for all of that. Where, you know, what's your standout moment? If you can pick one. If you can pick one, what's the standout moment?
Me, yeah, I think lifting the trophy for the League One title, probably home to Bristol City. I think the week before at Swansea was a brilliant game. I think remembering the atmosphere that day and actually getting over the line for promotion was probably one of the most memorable experiences. But then to obviously cap it, because I think we still could have missed out on winning the league the following week.
Yeah.
And I think Colchester. So actually, you know, having been in the club a long time and then being able to walk out and lift the trophy in front of the fans because the whole atmosphere and occasion was unbelievable. So that for me is probably the biggest moment. Like you said, there's a lot of. I would have loved to have. Disappointing not to win one of the LDVs. Wouldn't wanted to lift the trophy there. But obviously, there's like you said, there's so many occasions that that stand out. But for me, I'd probably say Bristol City at home lifting the trophy.
Did that almost feel like a full circle moment for you? We touched on like some of the stick you got earlier. Then, how many years later you're lifting a league trophy?
Yeah, I think that's probably why. For me, that's probably one of the major. I think I always then, off the back of getting a little bit of stick, it's always one of them that you go in. I was always one that it motivates you then if you want, because I don't want it ever to happen again. So you know how you push yourself and demand more from yourself and say, like, I ain't going to get to that stage again. But if you want a full circle moment, made it probably even more sweeter, I guess. But yeah, like I said, so many great memories, and I could go on for a long time talking about them. But that topped it off really.
Yeah. That especially you obviously I know you saw a few of the highlights that we was posting as well, and like not to blow smoke up your ass, but I think you was involved in about 50% of the goals we scored. I mean, there was a highlight of a nil rest, and you stood out as the best player on the pitch. I mean, it was ridiculous, really.
Yeah, because one of them that I wasn't one of them who used to fly around the pitch and I suppose catch the fans' eye immediately. And they sometimes, I think it's the position of the pitch that I watch a lot of football now. And it's an important one for me because it makes the team tick and makes the team play. I suppose sometimes you look back that you only could then go, see how much they contribute to the game, because obviously the goal scorers will always get the headlines, etc., etc. So, like you say, it's interesting to watch them back and see all the clips back that involved in probably more than you realise at times.
You had a decent range of passing for someone that passes sideways and backwards, put it that way. So.
My thing was like, if there was nothing on, I'd rather keep the ball than, because if you give it away,
exactly.
You're gonna have to run around after it again.
Yeah. I just forgot though. It was one of them classics that you get that occasion eye and he went sideways and backwards. And I was looking at the highlights and I was thinking, why every ball was forward? I didn't understand whatever.
It's so strange because there's honestly, I reckon about as high as 80% of the goals we score, your name is somewhere in like the commentary clip. You're either starting the move or getting the assist or even just passing it to the player who gets the assist. So you were constantly making it tick. And the classic one was you got called the crab. You only went sideways.
But that's what I think, that position, I think it helps them when you've got your Mark Gowers, your Freddies, the players in them areas who then go and produce like we had, and Goats, and there's so many good players, to be fair. So I think that brings it all out then, So obviously it was good looking back at them clips. Actually, it was good. It was during lockdown. You go, right, what time's the next one out?
Do you think you'll ever get your testimonial?
Good question. Listen, the chairman's obviously, he's always said that's the same thing, and like I said, I had a good relationship with him, so fingers crossed it gets the go ahead.
Is it still meant to be the first game in the new stadium? Is that the deal?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know if you've seen it, but it has now had the go ahead apparently. So
yeah, I saw that. Yeah, so fingers crossed that keeps going, and
give it another 10 years, and you might.
Double testimonial.
Yeah.
Probably come back as a manager as well. You'll be managing by then.
What were you going for first, manager or testimonial?
I'm going manager.
I'm going manager as well, I think.
Listen, fingers crossed, because to be fair, I have to say, I know he's probably comes in for a lot of stick at times, the chairman and that, but he has been grafting at this, and he's put a lot of effort into it. And I think for the club and for the area, I think it would be brilliant it's needed. It's needed for the club and to push it forward. And I know there's a lot of hard work gone into it, and fingers crossed this time we will get the go ahead, and for the good of the club really as well.
Yeah. Right, cheers, man. Anyway,
cheers, Kev.
No problem.
Top man.
Cheers, lads. Take care.
Cheers, mate. See you, mate.